Virtual production is a way to produce real-time video that is augmented by computer-generated imagery. Basically, if you've ever seen a set where an actor is in front of green screen, typically you have them shooting the plate photography and they're going to replace the background in later. Using virtual production, they're actually using that plate photography and tracking the camera to generate the background real-time and composite it real-time so the director and the actors can see those shots. I want to talk to you about a system that we're working on to basically incorporate virtual production into anybody's pipeline. If you like these videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I have a lot of videos coming out fairly soon about the future of what we're working on in Storyboarder, but as well as the future of filmmaking and production. So if you like the video, be sure and comment, but also subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks. Virtual production is important because it allows you to do imagery that would be too expensive to do otherwise. You can essentially take a tracked camera and real-time project a virtual world behind the actors to make them seem like they're actually in that space. This is something that would be incredibly expensive to do before, but now with the advent of real-time game engines like Unreal and just in general computers being faster, as well as the advent of virtual reality and virtual reality physical trackers, this stuff is becoming very simple and pretty much accessible to most everybody. Most people think that virtual production is only available to really huge productions, mainly because of the astronomical cost. If you think about it, you need a studio, a green screen setup, but you also need the camera tracking device. You need to create all of your assets. You need someone to help set all of this stuff up. And that is true. There is an incredible amount of cost there. There's some existing high-end niche systems like the NCAM, MPCs, Genesis, Halide Effects, and RedSpy. And these systems are incredibly expensive. Now, they're great, and if you have access to them, they're fantastic. However, they're cost prohibitive enough that most storytellers don't have access to them. And I think that it should be available to everyone. If we take a look at how it works on a technical basis, it's actually really simple. So in the real world, the actors are shot against a green screen. The camera itself has a Vive tracker on it, or really it can use any kind of tracker on it. And it takes the camera's position, rotation, and lens information and sends it to the engine that renders a virtual camera in the same relative position, rotation, and at the same point of field of view. So as I move the camera in the real world, it moves in the virtual world. So now I have two images. I have the image from the camera, the live image, and then I have the image from the virtual world that's hooked up from that camera angle. So if you think about like compositing two layers in Photoshop, you could take the virtual world image, composite on top of that the camera image, and then on top of that, the foreground and the virtual image on top of that. So everything appears to be in the same scene. It's actually really extremely simple, and yeah, it works fairly nicely. So if you take a look at the existing workflow inside of Storyboarder, the easiest way to set up scenes and shots is to just go into Storyboarder with a loose script, put on a VR headset, set up your scenes, and then set up your shots. And the vision for us was longer term than just exporting storyboards. We wanted to be able to export the metadata around those storyboards to a system that would take all of those shots together and organize them in such a way that when we go out and produce those shots, when we shoot the production, everything is well organized and can keep us on task. So, for example, well, actually, I'll just tell you what we're planning. We're planning this thing called ShotCore, although we may change the name. We're not really sure. We're also thinking about Shot Nexus. But anyways, it's a system that will import your storyboard file. Then all the shots inside of your storyboard file will get created as shots in the system. Then you can schedule those shots, put them in the order that you want. All the metadata from that shot is associated with the shots in ShotCore. So then when you use the Slater device and you pull the trigger, it gets all the information from the schedule from the ShotCore. It starts the camera recording. When you click the trigger again and it stops recording, it puts all of the footage files from the camera onto that server and then assembles a rough edit. But we got thinking that because you've developed these really beautiful scenes in VR, imagine you create like a castle, for example, and you have this big, beautiful castle that you've created. Why can't you take that virtual scene that you've created and use it to superimpose that scene with the castle and the dragon that you may have in the background? Why can't we use that to superimpose it on your live shot as you're shooting it? We have all the scene information. That should be very easy to do. So we basically took the data from that and are rendering it real time. And as long as we get the camera track information from the camera and transfer it through to the system, it'll render a stream of that virtual image. So anything you storyboarded in Storyboarder, you can have as basically a virtual production environment. And we think that's really powerful because you already have the metadata. You should just be able to shoot it. And the other thing that's really cool is as you're shooting it and you're making your takes, we're recording the camera tracking information, so that later on, when you look at the footage and you say, "Well, I want to make this castle look a lot better," you just export the camera tracking information, import it into an engine like Unreal or a 3D engine like Blender or Maya or anything like that, and you can make the castle a lot nicer and then render out really beautiful frames subsequently in post. So the system, the idea is that you can go from storyboard to export those shots and then to shoot in a virtual production environment, have your rough edit, see everything beautifully, and then go into post, and with minimal tracking information, you can basically, make a bunch of really nice, beautiful composites and renders. So that's the high-level idea. We basically want to incorporate virtual production into this ShotCore system that we're building. And I really just wanted to put this idea out there before we even have anything functioning, because I want to get your feedback on how you think a system should work like this. We're building it because the movie that we're working on has a lot of visual effects. It's very visual effects heavy, and there's no way that we're going to be able to shoot kids in the underground tunnels in New York. So we have to shoot that in a virtual production environment. So we thought that in our proto production, this phase where we're going to be shooting the whole movie as a story test, we wanted to track the camera and also do the virtual production as well, so we can actually see what those shots are going to look like. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that. So I think it'd be really great to be able to incorporate that into a service that we can package up and make available to almost anybody. I think that'll be really great for the future of independent filmmaking, but also really any filmmaker. I think that this is the best way to produce really beautiful creative content and then get into production, even if it is just initially a test, but also all the way up into principal photography. So if you have any comments on how this should work, I would love to hear it. I know that one of the things that I think that somebody would want is the ability to be able to create scenes in VR in the virtual environment, export those shots, and then import them into an engine like Unreal, so you can use a pre-existing tracking system. But I want to talk to anybody who's kind of interested in this stuff, and especially from people that want to do this and think that it's cost prohibitive. So thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. I don't know what the next video should be about, but if you have any ideas on what I should talk about next, whether it's a storyboarder thing or a production thing, well, I'll show you that later. Thanks so much. Bye.